You've got ideas, you've got ambition, you've got no time, or so you think. I'm Marissa Lonick, and I help busy moms with big dreams and no time. Join me each week as I dive into time management strategies, goal setting and achieving framework, and inspiring guests who are juggling mom life, work life, fill in the blank life. Dreams don't work unless you do, and just because you're a mom doesn't mean you can't still make it happen, whatever it means to you. Welcome to the Mama Work It podcast. Hey, mamas. Welcome back to another incredible episode of the Mama Work It podcast. I'm your host, Marissa Lonick, time momager, biz momager, founder of Mama Work It, where we support women in the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. And of course, I am a mama to 4 kiddos. So I am super excited to introduce you to our guest today, Andrea Hanson. Andrea, honestly, she just found this out. I just told her before we started recording, but I have been following her journey on Instagram for a few years now. And when I saw her name pop up on my list of potential guests for the show, I was reviewing the information and I was like, I know her. I mean, I don't actually know her. Like, this is the first time we're meeting, but I know her. I've seen her face. I've heard her story. I feel like I know her. So if you don't know her, I'm going to give you a really quick introduction, a little bio here. And then as always, I'm going to ask Andrea to share her story a little bit more in depth so you can get to know her like I did as a stranger on the internet. So in 2016, Andrea retired as a teacher to focus full time on her first online business. Since then, she has started 3 more successful businesses, which led her to launching RAE, Realigned Entrepreneurs, in order to pour her love for small business into women who feel the nudge for more. She's learned that too many women think their dream businesses are unattainable. So she is on a personal mission to clear out any limiting beliefs and show you just how to lean into the unknown. Her passion is to serve a community of dreamers and doers with tangible how-tos and transparent teachings. Andrea currently lives in Minnesota with her husband, Chad, and her 13-year-old daughter, Mari, and their dog, Frank. So, Andrea, I am so excited for our conversation. Thank you for being here. I'm excited to meet you finally, like in real life, sort of virtually in this space.
Yeah, it definitely feels real life and just makes it feel like a small world, even though it's not a small world, but it kind of is on the internet when you connect with the right people and you just kind of attract an incredible community. So that was fun to hear.
Yeah. Well, good. Okay. So I feel like I know a lot about you from like learning about you on your Instagram page, but for those who may not have seen your page yet or just don't know your story, tell us a little bit more about that journey and what that was like for you.
Yeah, I would say it started all the way back in high school when I had my high school job as working in the gift shops in the small town that my boutique is now in. That's one of my 4 businesses. And so I fell in love with small business as a kid, but also loved teaching. So I decided with the safe route and went into that field first and literally loved my job, was not trying to leave it, thought I was going to be a lifer. And 12 years in, this opportunity dropped in my lap, which was a network marketing opportunity. And I learned so much about business, mainly that if I use my work ethic, I could actually be financially compensated for the work, which is not something that happens in education. You can work your tail off and you make the same amount as the guy down the hall. So I was obsessed with it and the impact that I could make, and also the impact on my family with entrepreneurship. So I took a leap of faith into the unknown and continued to add businesses every 2 years. I have a brick and mortar boutique. I also gutted a historic building in the downtown that my store is in and put 4 apartments on the 2nd level. And we have a retail spot that someone is renting on the main floor. So I'm a landlord as well. And people started asking me about entrepreneurship, which led into my 4th, I won't say final because I'm a serial entrepreneur. Let's be honest, something else will happen at some point. And I coach women in business that want to surround themselves with doers and dreamers and just big idea people, but maybe don't know how to get their foot in the door somewhere or what those first steps are, or maybe they just have the mindset hurdle of thinking they can't do it. So having that community is very important, and I love gathering women.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all that. So much relatability there. I think a lot of us take that safe route, at least early on, and
Hmm.
then maybe get to a point where we realize just how many more opportunities are out there and available. And that clearly happened with you. It happened with me too. Yet that was a really analytical struggle thought process for me during that time. I don't know if it was for you too, but if it was, or whatever process you went through in sort of making that leap of faith or taking that leap of faith, tell me more about what that sounded like in your head, what that looked like for you. Did you have like a check and balance, a pro con list? Like how did you do it?
I love this question because that first leap of faith would not have happened without my risk averse husband. So, rewind back to that year, my final year of teaching. He's in a wheelchair, so he wheeled himself over to the couch where I was sitting, and very serious look on his face, and said, "Andrea, I'm about to tell you something, and I don't know how this is going to change our lives." And I was like, "What are you about to tell me?" Like, it came out of nowhere, and I had no idea what this was going to be about. And he said, "I think you should take a leave of absence from your teaching job." And I instantly start crying, and I'm like, I have been feeling the same nudge, but I would have never have said it out loud. This was before I had followed any leap of faith. This was my very first nudge that I knew in my soul, but I didn't have the courage to say it out loud. And I'm so grateful that he had the courage and said it, because it ignited this domino effect of further nudges down the road. I felt the confidence to step into them. So it was truly a God thing where he felt the nudge, I felt the nudge. Chad was brave enough to say it out loud, and I started drafting my letter of request to have a couple of years off from the classroom, which eventually turned into a resignation. But that moment right there in my living room was so pivotal for me. So it's truly just, we both felt called to it and decided we were just going to step out and trust this step out into the unknown.
Mm, oh my gosh, I love that story. I love it even more because sometimes I feel like, and I don't think you were necessarily waiting for permission for your husband, from your husband or anything with regards to that, but it
Correct.
gave you a little bit of that confidence boost and that permission that you kind of didn't know you needed in that moment, is what I'm hearing you
Exactly.
say.
That is such a beautiful way of saying it, because Chad and I talk about that often, that I don't need his permission on these leaps of faith, but I need his blessing or support
Hmm.
or encouragement, whatever word you want to call it. I need to know that he's a champion on my side of it. He's, like I said, very risk averse, so he's very good at poking holes in things, and that I use as an asset. Because at some point in the process, I do need somebody. He's an engineer by trade, so he makes sure that bridges don't fall down, and he makes sure that my ideas don't fall down.
Yeah.
So while those comments of hole poking don't feel good in the beginning of the conversation, they are crucial to make sure that I am making a sound choice, and we in our marriage are collectively supporting this idea, this passion of mine, to move forward with.
Yeah. It's like a check and balance. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So people often say, follow your gut. You hear it. I hear it. I hear it all the time, right? What does that actually mean, Andrea? Like, is it possible to distinguish between that genuine nudge that you were feeling or that other people tend to feel? I know I felt it from your gut, or just like a wild and crazy concept that you have, crazy idea that you're like, is that my gut or is that just some random thought I just had that needs to just flush its way out of there?
Oh my gosh, yes. This is actually probably the most common question I get when people book a call with me is they just want to vet this idea that they have to know if it's crazy or not. First of all, the idea decision whether you leap or not has to be a you decision, not me as the coach that you're hiring to talk through it with. Like it has to be up to you. So I just want to preface that. I can't tell you whether it's a good idea or not, but I can help you by asking you to think about three things. Does this idea keep coming back? Like, have you tried to push it away? And then you're laying in bed at night trying to fall asleep and it comes back and you're like, gosh, there's that thing again. Like, and you actively are saying, no, that sounds too scary. That's uncomfortable. I don't want to do that, but it keeps coming back. That's one sign that it's probably something you need to try. Second would be think about 5 years from now, get really quiet, get some alone time with yourself, maybe driving in the car, and think 5 years from now, if I don't try this thing, will I regret it? That for me is the line in the sand gut check because if it is just like a crazy willy nilly idea, I can easily toss that off and be like, nah, I don't, I don't really need to know what that would feel like. But when your intuition is like screaming at you, like, you need to try this, you need to see what this is, you need to step in this direction, you will instantly feel that I would regret this if I didn't do this. And the last one is when you do take a baby step in that direction, it is meant for you if you start to see doors opening. Like
Mm,
there will be that confirmation of new opportunities, somebody bringing something up along with the lines of your business idea. Like just look for those things coming in at you as opportunities because that is added confirmation that you're on the right path.
I love these tips. I had like full body chills as you were talking about them. I'm not even kidding. Um, I lean on my intuition a lot, and I've had this thought come through recently. It's not a new thought, but it keeps coming
Now
back.
I have body chills.
Yes, it is coming back and coming back. And I don't know about you. I get my best ideas in the shower. It's where I do a lot of
Yep,
my
me
clear
too.
thinking. And I'm in the
Yes.
shower the other day and it just came right back. And I'm like, I keep postponing this idea. And just what you're saying and sort of me trying that on with this thought, I'm like, okay, it's time. Thank you.
Yes.
Did
You're
you know this would
welcome.
be a coaching session for me too?
No, I didn't. But I love it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
All right. So moving on. What if you've got this big dream? Maybe you're married, you're in a relationship with someone who is more risk averse, like in your situation,
Mhm.
as you mentioned, whose
Mhm.
dreams are either quite different or maybe safer than yours. You didn't even have to rally or get your partner on board with this. He came to you, and that's how you know it was legit. But what if you did want to be the person who started that conversation with your partner, with your husband, with, your significant other? What's your advice there?
So I had to go to therapy to learn this. So here's some free
Okay.
therapy for all of you listening right now. First, back to the story of him telling me that on the couch. That was the first and only time that he initiated the nudge. Every other time, I have had to start the conversation, and it has been so challenging until we learned how to better communicate. So here's what has totally changed everything in our marriage because I used to just close down and not even share any of the exciting beginning stages of a business idea with him because it was always met with hole poking and what about this and have you thought about that and never he was not matching my energy on anything. So I just went to my two best girlfriends who are also entrepreneurs and we would just have so much fun just dreaming and thinking of all the what ifs and I cut him out which started creating this divide in our marriage. And so we were like, we got to do something to figure out how we're going to have these conversations. And what I learned was that it's a very simple task of cueing the conversation. So anytime I have a new idea, even if it's not something that I'm going to eventually do and open, but I'm just in that excited dream phase, which his brain does not compute that way at all. I cue the conversation and say, hey, I'm about to share something with you that I'm so excited about. And I just need you to be excited with me for like 2 minutes and just match my energy on it. We're not signing on any dotted lines. We're not going to the bank. This isn't happening tomorrow. I just need you to be excited with me and the possibility of it. And he's able to kind of like take a deep breath and be like, okay, I know the expectation. I know what she needs. I know what her needs are. I've clearly communicated that. And he delivers. And suddenly we can have these conversations that used to be really hard because I would just smack him upside the head with my excitement. And he thinks we're like going to the bank and getting a loan for this idea. Um, and it has just allowed us to like meet on the same page on those challenging conversations. And the second thing is kind of what I mentioned before is to leverage their conservative thinking. Tell them that it is very valuable that you think this way because I want to make sure that we are looking at this from every single angle and that this is a sound business idea. And I will need those skills later. So hold on to those questions and thoughts that may come up for you when I share this idea, but I don't need them right now because that would pop my balloon of excitement. So just be excited with me. So it's the cueing and also reminding them that they do bring value to the table. It just needs to come at a different time.
Yeah, that is such good advice. I totally can relate to that. As a dreamer myself.
It can overwhelm
Yeah,
people sometimes.
totally, totally. All right. So you notice these three mistakes that you find a lot of women that you work with are making when they talk to you about wanting to start their own business, especially while they're working full time, which many people do. I mean, it's a good idea, right? Especially if
Hmm.
like you need an income right now and businesses don't often make that income right away. So,
Yeah.
what are those mistakes that we can avoid?
I think the three biggest ones would be first, believing that they have to have it all figured out before taking steps towards it. So, an example, a girl hired me to guide her through the thought process of starting a food truck. Do I have personal experience in starting a food truck? No. But she came to me thinking that she had to figure out the 100 steps from finding a truck, redesigning it, licensing all the things to the end before she started. And I said, no, first you're going to call the city and you're going to be like, what permits and licenses do I need? How does that work? They're there to help you. They want you to be doing this. It's an income thing for them as well. They have vested interest in people starting thriving infrastructures in the city. So call them, figure that out. Just take tiptoe baby steps towards things. Find someone who does have a food truck. Send them a message. Say, hey, can I buy you lunch so I can pick your brain? She left that coaching session realizing, okay, I just need to see what this feels like, step down this road, start tackling some of those beginning things without investing. She was like, how do I get financing to buy this van? I'm like, let's figure out some other stuff first. So you don't have to have it all figured out. I didn't know anything about any of the businesses that I started before starting them. It's a lot of trial and error, learn along the way, and ask people that are ahead of me. So just start going in that direction. Second would be kind of hand in hand with this one would be biting off more than you can chew in the beginning. Don't try to tackle all of the knowledge. When I started my boutique, I didn't start with brick and mortar. I started in my basement. So I bought enough inventory to fill a tiny room and I did Facebook live sales and trunk shows at friends' houses. And I had a tiny inventory and everything that I made, I put back into the business to build up so that a year later I could open that brick and mortar and I didn't need to take out a business loan because I had started small and built from there. You don't have to have the big like grand opening with the end goal in mind. I also started on a street I didn't want to be on and moved now 3 times and now I'm on Main Street. That was the goal. It took 5 years. You don't have to have the end sparkly ta-da at the very beginning. You can work your way there and do it financially safe a much safer way to do that. And finally, is that they don't invest in a coach or a mentor or a teacher, and they try to figure everything out on their own when you truly can accelerate everything and also have the guidance of a friend and a support system to get there. So when I started my boutique, I actually hired somebody who already had a boutique to show me how to do it. So she helped me set up my website and told me what vendors she trusted. And that was the best igniter for my success because I was able to have a thriving, working, successful business when most people are just trying to fumble around and figure out how to do it on their own. Invest in the people who are ahead of you so that you can have somebody take you along that road.
Yeah, that's such good advice. So, first one really hit home because it's so easy to fall into that like overwhelm, analysis, paralysis trap for so many. I
For
talk to
sure.
people about this all the time. And literally, even just, I mean, I agree. Small steps, baby steps, tiny steps, especially when you're juggling full-time job, maybe motherhood, maybe other things in your life. But
Yes.
also just like getting the thoughts out of your mind and onto like black and white piece of paper, Excel sheet
Yep.
somewhere, you know, ripped receipt, I don't care. Get it out of your
Yep.
head and onto a third party resource there
Yeah,
makes it so much easier to process because when it's all
for sure. The brain
swirling,
dump.
yeah, when it's all
Hmm.
swirling around your head, it's just so confusing. And then it's just nagging at you from all angles. You can't focus on anything, even stuff non business related.
Agreed.
Yeah. And
Totally
yes,
agree.
100%. You know, oftentimes when you're first starting your business too, you haven't made any money. And so
Hmm.
you can't, validate spending that investment on yourself of like a coach or a mentor or a consultant or whatever whomever you're going to hire, but it is the most valuable investment you will ever make. And this goes for whether you start a business, whether you make a career change, whether you just need a life coach in this moment because you're stuck. Like it's
Hmm.
going to propel you so far. I mean, you seem very self motivated. I know I'm very self motivated. I work with a coach. I mean, I wouldn't have been
Me
able to
too.
achieve probably 50, maybe even 75% of the things that I've done without that.
Yep. Totally agree. And I would never preach to do something that I'm not also doing. So I have had multiple coaches over the last couple years. It took me a while to like make the really high ticket investments, but gosh, the amount of learning that you can have in a short period of time is literally insane how it can catapult your career and your own just personal life, the growth, the inner growth that you get from reaching out and asking for help from someone who's beyond you is it's everything. We're supposed to do life in community, not as silos, just like flailing around.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know you're hosting an in person retreat this coming May. Love that, by the way. Why do you feel like an in person retreat is such a pivotal part in following your gut in that decision making process versus like having a virtual conversation?
I have personally been at retreats. First of all, I've hosted multiple retreats, but then attending a high level retreat where you show up and you are physically in the room with other people who are at similar points in business with you, the electric energy that happens when you're out of your normal environment. So maybe you fly somewhere, maybe you drive an hour to get to this retreat, but you are out of your typical environment with your typical stressors, your family, your friends, your job, all that thing. You remove yourself from that and you are in this sacred space with other women who are also wanting to reach for more. It's so hard to put into words unless you experience it yourself, but that is so key to getting out of your own way because you're able to have deep transformation. You're able to like have real emotion, tears, hugs, laughs, memories, connections. I wish I could have this bundled up answer for this, but it's not even really a tangible thing, but just invest in it. Even if it's not my retreat, I am just a huge proponent of getting in the room physically with women because it will absolutely change your life.
Yeah. There is something about that in-person energy that you just don't get on these virtual calls. And I mean, the virtual calls are wonderful. I mean, I'm all for them. I am in a
Yep.
virtual mastermind. I meet most of my clients virtually. I mean,
Yep.
it's opened so many doors to be able to connect with people that you wouldn't normally be able to connect with because of physical
Hmm.
distance. But yes, there is something so unique and so special about that energy exchange when you are in that space. Like, I think I just read something recently that said like you need like 9 hugs a day to bring you back to like even just like a homeostasis. Yeah.
Homeostasis. Yes.
You're getting all those hugs and more at that retreat.
Oh my gosh. Well, and it takes the Zoom calls after to an entirely new
Sure.
level. Like, which is why the retreat happens first in my mastermind. And then the 10 weeks after, we're meeting on Zoom. So I don't know if you went to church camp as a kid or you go to some like w- confirmation or you go to some conference and you're all jazzed up and fired up. And then you get back home and you're like, meh, where did all that
Mm,
go? The 10 weeks after is to keep that flame ignited so that you are still moving forward on whatever you realized in that sacred space of the retreat
mm-hmm,
over those 3 days. It can continue. And we've already built that connection between all of our souls
mm-hmm.
and it just changes that Zoom connection to an entirely new level
Yeah.
afterwards.
The vulnerability has been opened,
Mhm.
like we're all
Yep.
connected. And now there's like an accountability piece that follows for the 10 weeks, I bet
Yes,
too.
for
Yeah.
sure. For
Well,
sure.
that sounds incredible. We will definitely link it in today's show notes. And now we are going to step into the random lightning round. Are you ready?
I can't
Okay.
wait. I can't
So
wait.
these are just random questions. We just want to get to know you a little bit more personally. Are you ready? Here we go.
I am
Okay.
ready
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
to fly.
So many people say that on this show.
I would love to just be a drone and zoom around.
Yeah,
That would be so fun.
cool. Nail salon, hair salon, or spa. You can only pick one to visit for the rest of your life. Which one is it?
Spa. Those massages.
Mm-hmm.
All the pampering. I need it.
Okay.
I don't rest very well.
Yeah. What book are you reading right now?
I am rereading Stories That Stick by Kendra Hall
Such
right
a
now.
good one. Yes, I recommend that a lot to clients. I love that book.
So good.
She just wrapped writing a new one. If you follow her on
She
social, she's
did?
been talking about the writing journey. So I'm excited to see what that book is. And
Oh, I will be getting
yeah,
it. I am a huge fan.
yeah. Let's see. What's your cocktail of choice?
Old fashions.
Okay. Guilty pleasure TV show?
Um, anything on Netflix involving drug dealers.
So did
Like
not
the
expect that.
Mexican cartel. I don't know why I find them so fascinating, but yeah, I've watched all of them with my husband. We love them.
So funny. You learned so much about people in this part of the show, really. Okay, last question. What's something most people don't know about you?
Um, that 23 years ago, I won a what most people call a pageant, but we were ambassadors for our towns and went around promoting our city to other small towns in parades. And so I had like the crown and the whole scholarship deal. There was no swimsuit piece of it. It was all on speaking skills and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I had a crown for a year.
That's pretty awesome. Yes, love it. All right, Andrea, tell our listeners where they can find you before we wrap up today.
So I think the easiest way is to find me on Instagram, which is andrea.hanson.82. And my website's all linked there. All the things are there. So you can find me on Instagram.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks so much for being a guest.
Yeah, it was so fun. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Mama Work It podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and would love if you could take a quick minute to leave me a review on whichever platform you're listening from, and maybe even send a note to a fellow mama friend recommending it. Reviews and recs help this podcast grow and reach more like-minded, awesome moms. And if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click that button so we can stay in touch, girl. By the way, if you haven't checked out the Mama Work It website, please do. There are lots of free resources and great articles there that can help you with the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. So head on over. Thanks again for being part of the tribe. I'll see you soon, but in the meantime, keep on working it, mama.